It started with an email. Not one of those big, bold-lettered notices you get from the county or a court summons wrapped in drama. No, it was quiet, like a whispered threat dressed up in passive-aggressive stationery. Tuesday, 2:14 p.m. Right in the middle of what I like to call suburban prime time after lunch, before dinner, when all the HOA sentinels are wide awake and well-caffeinated. The subject line read, Unsanctioned Auditory Disturbance. Ref. Covenant 7b, subsection Atmospheric Serenity. I sat there, one hand on my carving tool, the other on a sweating can of Diet Root beer, wondering how the sound of my CNC machine cutting a small tiki head out of mahogany had become a felony against suburban peace. Now I'll say this. I live in a place called Maple Hollow Reserve, a name so bland it hurts. And Brenda Tisdale, our lifelong HOA president, isn't a person so much as a mood. That mood is beige. Beige rules. Beige fences. Beige morality. And she enforces it with a clipboard, a terrifying sense of purpose, and the righteous fury of someone who's never missed a potluck in 30 years. That day, Brenda showed up in person. Didn't step foot on my property, she never does. She stood out on the sidewalk like a stone statue of judgment, holding that cursed clipboard like it had divine authority. Clark, she called out, cool and smug. We received a report about unauthorized use of power tools during designated serenity hours. I didn't even look up from my work. It's not a power tool, Brenda, it's a CNC router. And it's Tuesday. Serenity hours apply to Sundays and holidays. She didn't blink. Atmospheric serenity is a full-week principle, not just a rule. Then she made a check mark on her sheet, like she was drafting a warrant. But what really got me wasn't the tiki head or her obsession with HOA codes. It was the part where she mentioned she'd seen me near the drainage culvert by the South Pond the night before. Just inspecting infrastructure, I said, trying to sound casual. Concrete's got character. She smiled, thin and mean. Clark, all community infrastructure belongs to the community, and I decide what the community needs. That wasn't a warning. That was a declaration of war. Now, what Brenda didn't know, what no one knew, was that the culvert wasn't just a pipe. It was the entrance to my sanctuary. A 40-foot stretch of abandoned spillway I'd converted into a little world of my own. I called it the vault. You had to crawl through an old drainage tunnel to get to it. I'd rigged a hidden latch, installed lights, marine-grade flooring, a couch I disassembled just to fit through the entrance, a tiny projector aimed at a polished concrete wall, and yes, even a handmade bar with a glowing tiki head above it. It was my hideout, my protest against HOA tyranny. That night, I snuck in like always, slipped past the back fence, ducked through the bougainvillea, and into the darkness. The vault welcomed me with its usual glow, warm and quiet. I poured myself a glass of bourbon, kicked up my feet, and just breathed. That's when I heard it. A groaning, metallic screech echoed through the pipe. Not a rat, not a creak. Something big, something upstream. My blood ran cold. See, the spillway had a valve. A giant red wheel. Most people thought it was sealed shut. Brenda must have found a way. She turned it. And just like that, water started pouring in. At first it trickled from the seams. Then it gushed. My projector sparked and died. Bourbon floated off the deck. I grabbed my Gobaga flashlight, multi-tool, protein bar and ran. But it was too late. Water surged through the pipe like it had a score to settle. I was caught in it, battered, swallowed whole. My last thought as I lost my footing and the vault vanished behind a veil of black water was simple. Brenda actually did it. Next thing I knew, I was flung like a cork into something huge. When I surfaced, gasping and freezing, I was inside a massive underground cavern lit by glowing fungus, surrounded by still water as far as the eye could see. And then, out of the darkness, a submersible appeared. A voice came through the speaker, flat and robotic. "You're not on the schedule," I replied. Funny, neither was getting flushed into a Bond villain lair today. They let me in. The pelota woman named Lark looked like she was born inside a computer chip, sharp, efficient, totally unimpressed by my dripping mess. Inside the sub was like the bridge of a spaceship. Minimalist, clean, probably cost more than my house. Lark said we were inside the Finch Reservoir Research Base, owned by Ellis Finch, the tech mogul recluse known for trying to launch a rocket using espresso steam. I laughed, until she said he was real and lived just up the dock. We docked at a hidden base carved into the cavern wall. Lark escorted me to the main deck, where I met Ellis. Silk robe, cup of tea, eyes that sparkled with madness and brilliance. He wasn't mad I'd broken in, he was thrilled. When I told him about Brenda, the valve, the grotto, the tiki head, he clapped like a kid on Christmas morning. "This isn't trespassing," he said. "This is art. Suburban rebellion meets infrastructure espionage." He pulled up a map of Maple Hollow. "Brenda's hosting the annual HOA picnic at the Ornamental Lake this Saturday, right?" I nodded. "We're going to surface the sub in the middle of the lake. You'll emerge. Say one line. She'll melt." So we did. Saturday came. Brenda stood at the podium, microphone in hand, lecturing about lawn uniformity. Right as she segued into shrub height compliance, the lake behind her began to bubble, then boil, then roar. The sub surfaced like a black leviathan. Hatch opened. I stepped out in a Finch Industries jumpsuit. Brenda turned, saw me. Her jaw dropped. I raised my wrist calm and said, loud and clear, "Brenda, you messed with the wrong plumber." The crowd went wild. Brenda stuttered, then collapsed into accusations. But the officers present were Merez and Gable weren't buying it. They'd already investigated. Salty Pete, the contractor, confirmed she tampered with county property. Charges: reckless endangerment, property sabotage, false report. Brenda resigned within the week. Sold her home a month later. And me? Ellis legally bought the drainage easement, hired Pete to rebuild the vault into something better. Climate-controlled, code-compliant, fully permitted. Now I sit in a plush leather chair, sipping scotch beneath the concrete dome, watching old movies with Lark and Ellis, occasionally chuckling at the name Brenda. And every so often, I get emails from the new HOA president, some guy named Gary, trying to ban submersibles from the Ornamental Lake. I just laugh, because when you've surfed suburban tyranny in a submarine, there's no going back. So here's what I'll ask you, folks. Have you ever had a Brenda in your life? Someone who mistook their clipboard for a crown? Drop your story in the comments. Let's build a vault of our own, one where creativity still has a pulse, even underground. And hey, never trust a red valve.